out the way. Who got a watch? Who got the time? I'm raising the clock. Even in my feelings, grind don't stop. Got big dreams, want big rocks. I got plans, you got talk. Heard it's real cheap, but it's really gon' cost. I'm tryna get these ends, build empires with my friends. I'm about handling my business. No time for stress over bullshit. You think success is an option? I'm tryna get this shit poppin' like woo. Big moves, my rules. Y'all heavy on the tweeting. I'll disappear a whole season like woo. Who said they looking for me? I'ma make you.
Good morning, DeMarie TV family. Everything I say is alleged, it's in my opinion, and it's for entertainment purposes only. So let's talk a little bit about what is the Adult Survivors Act, how it came about. And basically in May of 2022, the New York Governor, Kathy Hochul, signed the Adult Survivors Act into state law. And the act came into action on November 23rd, 2022, creating a one-year period when adult sexual abuse victims could file lawsuits that otherwise would have been barred because the case was too cold. So now that this window is closed, a small amount of time afforded to the victims saw more than 3 legal claims filed under this act. Inside of these 3,000 claims, you had everybody from high-profile actors, politicians, musicians, music moguls, hell, you even saw a president. Okay? That in these cases, if she had not signed this act into law, we would have never known about these cases because they wouldn't have seen the light of day. They were closed because they were too old. No one would have worked them. They couldn't have been addressed. Statute of limitations had run out in a lot of instances. And so it's due to this act that all of this information is coming to the forefront. So the act was a law that was created. It's a one-year window for sex abuse victims to file lawsuits for offenses that would otherwise be outside of statute options. So ordinarily in the U.S., deadlines on how long someone can wait to sue in a civil court, there are deadlines on that because it becomes more difficult to hold a trial as witnesses' memories fade and as time goes by, evidence is lost. Well, in 2019, New York extended the statute of limitations to 20 years for adults filing civil lawsuits for a select number of sexual crimes. However, that law only affected new cases and they did not make the law retroactive. It was modeled on the New York Child Victims Act that revived old claims over child sex abuse that led to thousands of lawsuits against schools, churches, and youth organizations. The act ended November 24th, 2000. So let's get into some of the people that were sued under the Adult Survivors Act. Many of them are, again, high-profile people, big-name celebrities, people that you would not think to even remotely be fearful of. If you were in a room, you probably wouldn't think twice about it. Hell, one of these people were the President of the United States. So literally, if you went to view or visit the White House, you would be in the White House with this man. You know, so he was on a presidential ballot. So these names, when they say high profile, is almost an understatement. So let's start at the top. Shit rolls down hills. Let's go. Donald Trump. So of course, everybody knows Donald Trump is a former president. But he was one of the first people to be sued under this law when it took effect last November by a writer who said she was raped in her department store dressing room by Donald Trump. Her name is E. Jean Carroll. And I will say this, if the person has released their name, I will say their name. Other than that, it'll be Jane Doe or John Doe, okay? So E. Jean Carroll, she's a columnist. She had written of this alleged sexual assault in a 2019 book. Of course, Donald Trump denied that accusation, saying it never happened. She sued Trump for defamation because the allegations dated way back to the mid-90s and the deadline for filing a legal claim had long passed. But when the Adult Survivors Act cleared the way for the sexual assault claim, she filed it. And in May, a jury found Trump liable for sexually abusing Carroll, but not raping her. She was awarded a $5 million settlement, including damages for defamation. And at this point, Donald Trump, he is appealing this decision. Okay. The next one that we'll address is someone that we're all familiar with. It is Bill Cosby. Now, Bill Cosby has spent 3 years in prison already because he was found guilty of drugging and molesting a Temple University employee, and he had his conviction overturned in 2021, and he was released. Under the Adult Survivors Act, Bill Cosby was sued in November by Joan Tarshis, who said she was a young comedian writer when Cosby drugged and assaulted her on 2 different occasions in the years around 1970. She had first made this accusation in 2014, but her ability to sue him was previously limited to a statute of limitation, and a representative for Cosby didn't respond to any questions about the claim. Instead, cited the number of well-known figures named in the lawsuit under the act, asking, when is it going to stop? So his position is this is an attack on men of power, men who have money, and he's claiming I believe it's over 50 women who have accused Bill Cosby of some type of sexual assault, drugging, molesting, groping, rape. So, I mean, this man is claiming all of these women are lying. His cases extend well over 10, 15 years. Okay, so these are people who don't even know each other, who've never known each other. They did not swap stories, but he's saying every one of these people are lying. So again, Bill Cosby has another case that he is going to have to face civilly underneath this law. And Bill Cosby is a very tragic story to a lot of Black people, because I literally went to college because I watched The Cosby Show and A Different World. Those shows really shaped how I felt about family and what I wanted my family to look like. So for this to be happening with Bill Cosby, it's traumatizing to a lot of people, because you almost have to separate the man from the art, and from the show, and that's very hard to do. It's very hard to do, and it's very scary to think that somebody that so many of us idolized and thought was just, Jell-O pudding pop, like we thought he was an amazing man, to have all this come out later, it blows your mind. Here's another that we have heard about for a very long time, because his evil deeds go back a long ways. This is Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein was one of the most well-known film producers in the U.S., and he was convicted in December of raping and sexually assaulting an Italian model and actor during the 20 Film Festival. He's already serving multiple prison sentences after being convicted of rape and other assaults in 2020 and 2023. However, under the Adult Survivors Act, Weinstein was sued again in October of 2023 by Julia Ormond, who accused the movie producer of bringing down her movie career after a sexual assault in 1995. Weinstein, he's currently in prison in New York, says he categorically denies the accusations through his attorney. And this is another thing. What we are starting to see a pattern of is not only do these men sexually assault these women, they then make it a point to destroy their careers. They destroy their careers, they fire them, they blacklist them. They make it so not only am I sexually assaulting you, I'm then going to fire you, so you don't have insurance. You have no money to pay for counseling. You can't go get a job. They ruin their names. They make it so that no one else will want to work with them. They destroy their reputations. It's awful. And it forces a lot of these women to go through this trauma privately. It's crazy. Russell Brand. Russell Brand's a British comedian. and an actor sued under the law by a woman who said she was an extra on the set of the movie Arthur in 2010, and Brand was starring in that movie. She said Brand exposed himself and sexually assaulted her in a bathroom. Of course, he, does not have a comment on the lawsuit. But in connection to the claims in British media outlets in September, 4 other women said he assaulted them as well. Brand says all of those claims are false because they were always consensual sexual relationships. Yeah, I'm gonna just let that one sink in. It's amazing. Axl Rose, Guns N' Roses. Everybody knows who Axl Rose is from Guns N' Roses. Axl Rose was accused by a former model of raping her in 1989 in a New York City hotel room. Sheila Kennedy says she was diagnosed with anxiety and depression because of the attacks, and she has referenced this before. So hopefully, if she's been diagnosed with anxiety and depression, she told therapists years ago what happened to her, and hopefully there are records of that. Hopefully there are. Of course, Axl Rose says, simply put, it just never happened. And they point to the fact that she filed the claim the day before the New York State filing deadline expired. So essentially they're trying to say it's just a money grab because she waited so long to file the claim. And I think the funny thing is a lot of these people waited towards the end because who wants to come out with this private information about themselves? It is embarrassing, it's degrading, it is traumatizing. I can't imagine that this is something anybody wants to do. So, yeah, a lot of people waited to the last minute, and a lot of people waited to the last minute and said, no, I'm not going to do it. Never mind. So just imagine what we see right now is probably just the tip of the iceberg. It's probably so many more women out there who just did not have the courage to follow through with it. Steven Tyler. It's Steven Tyler of Aerosmith. So the accuser in his case says that dating back to the 70s, he forcibly kissed and groped her. She said she was 17 when she met Tyler in Manhattan in the summer of 1975, and he assaulted her twice during that day. Tyler made no public comment on the accusation. Tyler was sued for sexual assault and battery in 2022 under a 2019 California law that gave adult victims of childhood sexual assault a 3-year window to file lawsuits for decades-old instances of sexual assault. Julia Misley said Tyler had an illicit sexual relationship with her when she was a teenager. So, like I said, there's layers to this. There's some cases that are a lot more horrific than others. I'm not saying the forcible kiss and groping her when she was 17 is not something she feels she was wronged by, but I do think this is different than some of the more severe cases that we see. What I do also want to point out, though, is that the pattern, you'll start to see certain patterns with people. And the pattern we see here is the women being teenagers, So you have to kind of sort through everything. I'm going to give every accuser the benefit of the doubt, but some of them I don't feel that a groping and kissing is the same as a forcible sexual assault. They're not the same. It's not, I don't feel it. It's just not the same. So there are layers to this, and keep this in mind when we're discussing some of the charges that have been alleged against the accused. Rudy Giuliani. Of course, everybody knows he's the former mayor of New York and eventually was the attorney for Donald Trump. And I think that was one of the biggest mistakes he's ever made. But he's being sued by a woman who says he coerced her into a sexual activity while she did work off the books for him. The woman is Noelle Dunphy, and she said Giuliani made suggestive comments and demanded sex while she worked for him as a business development director and public relations consultant in 2019 and 2021. Of course, Giuliani's spokesperson, strongly denies the allegations. And then we have Mike Tyson. So Mike Tyson, of course, is a famous boxer, and he was sued by a woman who said he raped her in Albany, New York in the early 1990s after she met him at a nightclub. And this rape supposedly happened in his limousine. Mike Tyson spent 3 years in prison after being convicted of rape in 1992. There was no comment from Mike Tyson or his representatives regarding the new charge, or the new civil case filed against him. So Cuba Gooding Jr., of course, Cuba Gooding Jr. is a well-known actor. One of his famous movies and lines is "Show Me the Money." Everybody kind of knows Cuba Gooding Jr. from his movie roles. He's facing 2 new lawsuits from women who claim that he groped them in separate incidents at a New York restaurant in 2018 and 2019. The lawsuits were filed on Wednesday in New York Supreme Court under the State's Adult Survivors Act, a week before it was set to expire. The litigation is the latest against Gooding, who settled a lawsuit back in June with the woman who accused him of rape in the 2018 claim. A cocktail waitress working at Lava Restaurant and Nightclub in New York accused Gooding of forcing his tongue in her mouth without her consent. Gooding pled guilty to the charge related to the incident last year. The lawsuit includes a portion of a transcript from a April 2022 hearing where Gooding admitted to the incident. The plaintiff requested that her name not be used. In 2019, Kelsey Harbert alleged that Gooding groped her breast after she sat down next to he and his girlfriend at Magic Hour Rooftop Bar and Lounge. In response, plaintiff grabbed defendant's hand in order to remove it from her breast, to which the defendant then took her hand, put it up to his mouth, and tried to kiss it. She filed a police report after the incident, and Gooding pled guilty to that as well. And the lawsuit included a comment from his hearing in which he said it was non-consensual physical contact. So the 2 new plaintiffs are represented by Gloria Allred, and she made a statement that her clients were deprived of the justice they sought in criminal cases. They are now seeking justice and accountability in civil cases. So we are proud of their courage and intend to vigorously fight for them until they win justice that they deserve. So he has openly committed to these acts, and now he'll have to deal with the consequences to that civilly. So we also have, and this one was kind of shocking to me, the New York mayor, Eric Adams. He's been accused of sexually assaulting a woman 30 years ago. So Adams he was a New York police officer who rose to the rank of captain before entering politics. He served as a state senator and Brooklyn borough president before becoming mayor. The details of the alleged assault in New York have not been released, but the legal action has been filed for Eric Adams at the state Supreme Court in Manhattan, and it seeks a trial and $5 million in relief. City Hall spokesman has said in a statement that the mayor does not know who this person is, and if they ever met, he doesn't recall it, but he would never do anything to physically harm another person, and vigorously denies the claim. Then you also have Jamie Foxx, by a woman who accused him of sexually assaulting her at a New York rooftop lounge in 2015. The lawsuit alleges that Jamie Foxx made comments such as, "Wow, you have a supermodel body," while at Catch NYC and Rooftop, before later grabbing the woman by the arm and pulling her to a secluded back portion of the rooftop. She alleges that there was heinous touching and sexual assault, which resulted in severe emotional distress and anxiety, as well as post-traumatic stress disorder. The woman is identified as Jane Doe in court documents and is also suing Catch NYC and its owner, alleging that they were negligent and failed to use reasonable care to prevent the acts described in the lawsuit. So Jamie Foxx is going to have to answer to those allegations as well. Now, Jimmy Iovine is one of several music moguls who has been accused of some type of sexual misconduct under this law. So a woman identified as Jane Doe accused the music executive of sexual harassment and abuse in New York Supreme Court. The woman claims that he committed the crimes including assault and battery. She's seeking damages as a result of being sexually abused and forcibly touched and subjected to sexual harassment and retaliation in violation of anti-discrimination laws in or around August 2007. Her case was filed under the Adult Survivors Act, and the legal documents for her case states that the amount for relief will be determined at trial for, but not limited to, physical injury, economic and compensatory damages, punitive damages, and attorney's fees and costs. Legal documents state that her amount for relief will be determined at trial for, but not limited to, physical injury, economic and compensatory damages, punitive damages, and attorney's fees and costs. The trial will take place in New York per her filing, and the court summons was signed by attorneys for Jimmy Iovine. This is just shocking, and it does not get any better. It's worse and worse. Now, this next one is also with a music executive, and it's very shocking. This is very shocking to me. I grew up listening to music from LA and Babyface. You could not have ever convinced me that this man was at all what he is being described to be in this complaint that's been filed. But listen, I know better now. I know not to ever judge a book by its cover in either direction. So this is what the lawsuit filed by Drew Dixon in federal court in Manhattan under the Adult Survivors Act says. This one is another one where it was just like punitive. Not only was it a sexual assault, but he went above and beyond out of his way to destroy her. So let's talk about this one. Drew Dixon claims that the Grammy-winning music executive Antonio Reid, better known as L.A. Reid, sexually assaulted her and harassed her. That's her claim in her lawsuit. She filed hers in the federal district court in Manhattan, and she says that L.A. Reid was her boss in the mid-2000s, and he assaulted her not only once, but twice, is what she's claiming. She said there are other instances where it was attempted, but she successfully rebuffed him on other occasions. As a result of that, he retaliated. She says he retaliated against her, blocking her ability to sign or cultivate artists like a young John Legend. So she found John Legend, and because of all of these things that were happening with her in the background of L.A. Reid, she was not able to bring John Legend forward because this man allegedly was sexually abusing and harassing her in the workplace, and because she would not comply, he would not allow her to cultivate John Legend. That is life-changing for her to find that talent and then be denied the opportunity to work with him because she would not sleep with her boss. It's crazy. She claims in 2002 she left the company and she made some progress in the industry again, but she never fully recovered and her career took a hit. It's a lot more to this story, and maybe we'll delve into it, but this is one of the cases in which you definitely see that not only was there accusations of sexual harassment and assault, but he went out of his way to make sure that she was blacklisted, didn't get opportunities to work anymore. And it basically, this woman worked very hard to establish a career, and he just ruined it. So her complaint falls under the Adult Survivors Act, a New York law that was enacted for the 1-year window. Miss Dixon is 53 years old today, and she's an advocate for the look-back window for her law closed. The look-back window for her case, as we all know, closed November 24th, and she filed her lawsuit, with very close towards the end, but within the time allotted to put this information out there. Of course, in a statement, L.A. Reid said he vehemently denies all the allegations. Her lawsuit states that he raped her in 1995, but she also says that She worked with Russell Simmons as well. Miss Dixon spoke out in 2017 when she was one of 3 women who accused Russell Simmons of rape. It just gets worse. Her lawsuit against L.A. Reid states that Russell Simmons raped her in 1995, but does not name Simmons as a defendant. Dixon said in an interview that she's still evaluating her legal options when it comes to Simmons has denied Miss Dixon's claims. But what I will say with regard to that is you are not allowed to sue people who are out of the country, and that's probably why she did not include him, because he's not here. So that does not mean she left him out because she does not feel like he was guilty of harming her. She left him out because he has had to deal with other accusations of sexual assault and sexual harassment, and allegedly he fled the country and he has not come back because he does not want to be held accountable for those things. Okay? Crazy. Y'all, it makes your head hurt. As a woman, you are thinking, goodness, like, what in the world is happening in our entertainment industries and in our politics? I cannot. I am so disturbed by this. And is it just me? Listen, I have never, thank God, ever been sexually assaulted, and I am so grateful for that. But if I'm this triggered, I can't imagine what women who have gone through this feel like. I can't begin to imagine the trauma and how triggering this has to be. This is astonishing that it gets to happen so frequently and fluidly in our country. And it's almost like once one of them raped her and got word that they spread the word, then another one knew, I smell blood in the water, and he attacked as well. It's like, where is the protection? Where's the protection? And I'm gonna tell you, I almost feel like these civil suits, that's bullshit. They need to fix this law so these people can be criminally charged, and we can have trials where evidence has to be presented. I just feel like it has to be, I don't feel comfortable knowing that all of these people have paid some money, but they're still out there. Because these behaviors, I don't care what you say, they don't change. These people are not going to change. And in most instances, when you see one, it's other victims behind there, and we just don't know about them. We're not safer as a public just because their names were put out and they had to pay money. They're all still free and walking out and around us and about, except for, I think, Weinstein. They're all out here roaming, out and about, interacting with more women and people every single day. It's frightening. Okay, you guys, we have another New York official, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, whom I just want to say, when Andrew Cuomo was in office, I loved Andrew Cuomo. As a politician, I thought he did a lot of great work for New York, and this was just so disappointing. It really was. But he's being sued by a former aide who says he sexually harassed her while he was still in office. So the former executive's assistant, Brittany Commisso, filed the case against the ex-governor in state Supreme Court in Albany. It's a 3-page summons that came just before the expiration of the Adult Survivors Act, and she claims that she is one of at least 11 women who accused Cuomo of sexual misconduct, leading to his abrupt 2021 resignation in a Me Too era scandal that marked a severe fall from grace for the Democrat. So she's saying she's just one of 11 women that accused him of some type of sexual misconduct. And it's crazy. A lot of the women have spoken out. They're state troopers that were supposedly assaulted. It's one woman that says he would say to her, "You were raped and abused and attacked and assaulted and betrayed." This is something that she texted a coworker back in 2022 about a conversation she just had where Cuomo gave feedback about a speech on sexual assault she was given at her alma mater. She had confided in him that she'd been assaulted. She was one of a number of uncomfortable conversations she had with Cuomo when she worked with him as a low-level aide. He asked whether she was monogamous and what she thought of age differences in relationships, said he needed a hug, and told her he was looking for a girlfriend. Anyone over the age of 22, she was 25. In a text exchange at that time, a friend asked her if something happened, and she replied no, but it was like the most explicit it could be. And she was shaken, writing, "I'm so upset and so confused." So she confides in him, and then he makes a play and just inappropriately moves in and touches her in a manner that makes her uncomfortable in the workplace. There's executive assistants, there is state entity employees, Lindsay Dolan, Alyssa McGrath, the woman that goes by Caitlin, another state entity employee. It's all kinds of people that have complaints against this man. And I know that there was a big push for him to stay in his elected role, but it was so many cases that came out that it was impossible for him to do so. Once the floodgates opened, I mean, it just started pouring out. So Andrew Cuomo also has a case filed against him. He's definitely working through some other cases and matters at the same time that results from the previous allegations that he is facing. It's just, y'all, this is a lot. It's a lot. It is a lot. All right, you guys, here's another one. Marilyn Manson. So Marilyn Manson allegedly groomed and sexually assaulted an underage girl multiple times in the 1990s, according to a lawsuit filed. This is the first suit to focus on sex crimes that allegedly took place in the beginning of Manson's career, while those who have previously sued the singer all accused him of sexual misconduct around 2020. So Manson, whose real name is Brian Warner, he's listed as a defendant alongside his former labels Interscope and Nothing Records. The plaintiff, now an adult, has submitted the suit anonymously as Jane Doe, and the filing includes counts of sexual battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress against Warner, and negligence and intentional affliction of emotional distress, among other charges against the label. Jane Doe says she first encountered Warren in 1995 after a Dallas concert when she was age 16. I don't know how this keeps happening, but parents, do not let your underage children interact with music artists and celebrities. That is crazy. R. Kelly, Marilyn Manson. I mean, come on, stop letting your children have one-on-one time with these artists. They're just people. They're people, and you don't know who they really are. So please stop buying your kids tickets and taking them to concerts and letting artists have their way with them. We've seen this enough for everybody now to know this is not how to move. She claims that after a Dallas concert, when she was 16, she was waiting outside his tour bus with a group of people to meet him, and he allegedly invited her and one of the other younger girls onto the bus, where he asked their age and school grade and took down their home addresses and phone number. On the tour bus, Warren performed various acts of criminal sexual conduct upon the plaintiff, who was a virgin at the time, including but not limited to forced copulation and vaginal penetration. Age of consent in Texas at the time was and still is 17. One of the band members watched Warner sexually assault the plaintiff, was in pain, scared, upset, humiliated, and confused, and after he was done, defendant Warren laughed at her. Defendant Warren demanded plaintiff to get the fuck off the bus and threatened the plaintiff that if she told anyone, he would kill her and her family. Doe alleged that a crew member gave her a 1-800 number for the band and a password so she and Warren could meet again. She began using drugs and alcohol shortly after the alleged sexual assault, the suit says, and she would continue to abuse substance in subsequent years. In the suit, that Warren would call her and chat with her online, asking for explicit photos of her and her friends. Before the year was up, Warren allegedly convinced Doe, who was still 16, to travel to a New Orleans concert where she met with Warner, who the suit says groomed her by complimenting her artwork. Defendant Warner then became more aggressive and again sexually assaulted the plaintiff, including kissing, biting her breast, oral compilation, and penetration. After the second assault, Defendant Warner acted in a kinder manner to the plaintiff and told her he wanted to see her again. Doe continued her contact with Warner and his band. At age 18, she started dating then Nine Inch Nails drummer Chris Vrenna, who allegedly urged her to move to Los Angeles. While there, she attended a Marilyn Manson concert where a band member encouraged her to attend a $19 concert. She also went to the next show in New Orleans where the crew helped her get backstage for an audience with Warner. A member of Warner's team allegedly told her he would continue to give her backstage passes. The atmosphere backstage always included the availability of large amount of drugs and others to use, according to the suit. She claims she spent 4 weeks on the road with the group taking drugs and spending hours with Warner as he groomed, harassed, and sexually abused her. During this period, the suit alleges that Warner began tightening his psychological control over Doe as she continued to accompany him on tour dates. While she was still a child, the defendant Warner had purposely and intentionally laid the groundwork necessary to intimidate and control her. Despite reaching the age of legal majority, the power to psychologically intimidate and control the plaintiff was still present. While in Florida, plaintiff considered going back home. Plaintiff spoke with defendant Warner and revealed her vulnerabilities and a general lack of support she felt from her family. As he did on countless occasions, defendant Warner exploited this vulnerability to keep plaintiff under his control. Defendant Warner often made plaintiff feel alone and isolated by telling her that no one understands her other than him, which included her family. At the time, plaintiff believed defendant Warner and was compelled to keep following him. He continued this pattern throughout the time they spent together. Doe alleges, claiming that when she was 19, Warner perpetuated his grooming, manipulation, exploitation, and sexually assaulted the plaintiff over a course of approximately a month. Throughout the tour, while within the state of New York, the plaintiff said the defendant Warner, both on concert days and off days, defendant Warner coerced her to have sex with him and other bandmates or his assistant at the same time, while all the while giving her drugs. She claims he was hostile, verbally abusive, ridiculed her, and especially in the presence of other young female fans. Y'all, this is just a lot. Now let's talk about Marcellus Wiley. He's convicted of raping fellow Columbia University student during his time at the elite school 29 years ago. The victim, a sociologist with a focus on race and culture, filed a lawsuit in New York Supreme Court accusing Wiley, 48, of attacking her in the fall of 1994 when he was a sophomore and star running back for the Columbia Lions. Wiley allegedly forced himself on her in her freshman dorm room, relentlessly ignoring her verbal objections and robbing her of her virginity, an attack that would later drive his victim to attempt suicide. Wiley's actions were intentionally designed to cause the plaintiff severe emotional distress and were taken with reckless disregard of the significant probability of causing the plaintiff severe emotional distress. Now, Ivy League professor claims she and Wiley were friends when he invited himself to her living quarters, telling her he wanted to listen to music and eat dinner together. Plaintiff set clear boundaries with the 250-pound football player, telling him she was a virgin and was not interested in having sex with him. Ain't nobody trying to have sex with no virgin. Don't worry, I got you. Just coming to hang out while I eat. I don't even have to have condoms on me, Wiley allegedly told her while laughing. Wiley, however, almost immediately ripped off the freshman girl's clothing and forced her face down onto the victim. Said she could barely breathe and feared for her life as Wiley raped her multiple times. She managed to escape and scrambled to find her clothes, nearly contemplating fleeing the room naked, but was verbally threatened and physically yanked back into bed by Wiley for another round of sexual assault. After confiding in a friend over the attack, the victim reported the rape to a series of Columbia University administrators, all of whom are accused of displaying fondness for Wiley and dismissing the assault in an attempt to preserve the budding football star's college eligibility as well as his NFL career. That is crazy. That is horrible. So here she does exactly what people tell her to do. She told immediately, and they just defended him. One of the administrators allegedly showed the victim statement to Wiley, who just disagreed that it's rape. Residential Dean Kathleen McDermott, who died in 2011, allegedly accused the victim of misinterpreting the terrifying encounter because she was born in the African island county of Cabo Verde. McDermott told the plaintiff that, in McDermott's opinion, the defendant had not actually raped the plaintiff because the plaintiff was not from America and therefore misinterpreted the defendant's conduct because people from different cultures interpret things differently. This is disgusting. Rather than being expelled, Wiley was placed on academic probation in order to complete the spring 1995 semester from his home in LA. He was permitted to return to complete his academic and sports career, eventually becoming the Lions captain and leading the team to one of its best seasons in decades. The victim and a friend who encouraged her to report the sexual assault received a series of harassing phone calls in the month after the minimal punishment was handed down. The following spring, while on mandatory leave, the plaintiff attempted suicide. The plaintiff was admitted to a locked hospital ward for 2 weeks after being released. While Wiley eventually returned to the Manhattan campus, the victim was forced to share multiple classes with her alleged attacker, who also studied sociology at the Ivy League University. What? She became active in Columbia's chapter of Take Back the Night, an organization aimed at ending sexual assault, relationship, and domestic violence, where she met another woman who also shared her harrowing story of rape at Wiley's hands, both before and after her own assault. This is what I mean. It's always more. One woman claims she reported her rape to the school's athletic director, who allegedly decided to keep the accusations under wrap until Wiley played in the game against the rival Princeton. Wiley went on to join Buffalo Bills after being selected in the second round of the 1997 draft. He played in the NFL for 10 seasons. After his final season in 2006, Wiley worked for ESPN NFL Live before co-hosting the network's Sports Nation before moving to Fox Sports and FS1. Crazy. Columbia was named in the lawsuit over accusations of negligence and reckless failure to protect its students from sexual predators. Wow, that's crazy. Y'all, this is rough. I'm gonna get through it because it's important for people to know and to hear. So last but not least, let's do Diddy and his clan. So we're going to cover Sean P. Diddy, Combs, Puff Daddy, Brother Love, whatever you want to call him. We're also going to cover Aaron Hall, who is accused in one of the assaults as well as Diddy. And then we'll cover Harve Pierre, who worked for Bad Boy. So let's get into that. Now, the Sean Combs case is one that I think most people have already heard about, have been watching Make It Make Sense. Mims has done an exceptional job of covering this, and so I'm not going to go all into the details and the weeds in this video. What I'm going to do is state the facts, and then we can talk about things on the other side. If you guys want to drop comments or come up, we can definitely discuss those things. But in the event that you have been just completely off of any type of device and do not understand what has happened with Sean Combs and Cassie's lawsuit against him, I'm going to direct you to Make It Make Sense and Mims' channel. Again, the work is exceptional. He does very deep dives into all of this. He actually goes through the case line by line. So head over there and check that out. But For this right now, we're just going to cover kind of an overview. And if you guys want to talk more in detail, we can definitely do that on the other side. But Cassie Ventura has accused Sean P. Diddy Combs of, let me start over. So you know who Sean Combs is. He was accused by Cassie Ventura, who we all know to have been a long-standing partner for him. She filed a complaint, a lawsuit, underneath this act, stating that Puff Daddy or Diddy subjected her to a pattern of control and abuse over a decade long. Okay? Diddy initially denied those claims, but he eventually settled with her literally 24 hours after the lawsuit came out to the public. Okay? They have been discussing this and in the background trying to work out a settlement amongst attorneys. But when it came public, case was settled within 24 hours. Now, let's kind of get into what she says happened, and we'll talk about why that settlement may have come. So Sean Combs, the producer, Music Mogul, is one of the famous names in hip hop. This is the man who discovered Biggie, like Mace, 112. It goes Mary J. Blige, it goes on. Okay, so if you love hip hop, you know who Diddy is. Period. Is accused of raping Cassie and repeated physical abuse over a decade. So in the suit filed in the district court in Manhattan, Cassie, whose real name is Cassandra Ventura, and who had long been Mr. Combs' romantic partner, says that not long after she met him in 2005, when she was 19, he began a pattern of control and abuse that include plying her with drugs, beating her, forcing her to have sex with a succession of male prostitutes while he filmed the encounters. And in 2028, the suit says near the end of their relationship, Mr. Combs forced his way into her home and raped her. After years in silence and darkness, Ms. Ventura said in a statement, "I am finally ready to tell my story and to speak up on behalf of myself and for the benefit of other women who face violence and abuse in their relationships." In response, a lawyer for Mr. Combs said that Mr. Combs denies these offenses and outrageous allegations. For the past 6 months, Mr. Combs has been subjected to Ms. Ventura's persistent demand of $30 million under the threat of writing a damaging book about her relationship, which was unequivocally rejected as blatant blackmail. Despite withdrawing her initial threat, Ms. Ventura has now resorted to filing a lawsuit riddled with baseless and outrageous lies, aiming to tarnish Mr. Combs' reputation. But again, Diddy settled this lawsuit, and I believe that he settled because she says that, so Cassie was not only Diddy's girlfriend, she was an R&B singer who was once signed to Diddy's label Bad Boy Records, and she alleges sex trafficking, human trafficking, sexual battery, sexual assault, and gender-motivated violence, among other claims of action. The filing claims his controlling behavior started when she met him in 2005 after she signed a deal with Diddy's recording label the following year. He allegedly exerted complete control over her life, including her apartment, her car, her clothing, and even her medical records to keep her under his thumb. According to the lawsuit, he went so far as to target the rapper Kid Cudi, who briefly dated Cassie in 2011 during a rough patch in Diddy and Cassie's relationship. Just a day after Cassie filed this lawsuit, she settled with Diddy out of court. Below, the lawsuit claimed those close to the founder of Bad Boy Records turned a blind eye to the physical abuse. The beatings were witnessed by Mr. Combs' staff and employees, the suit alleges, but no one dared to speak up against the frightening and ferocious boss. Cassie says she never went to the police for fear that it would give Diddy an excuse to hurt her. In one instance of abuse in 2009, he allegedly kicked her repeatedly in the face, making her bleed, and had his staff hide her in a hotel room. every time she hid, Mr. Combs' vast networks of corporations and affiliated entities found her. Those who worked for Mr. Combs' companies employed her to return to him. Many went as far as to explicitly state that her failure to return to Mr. Combs would hinder her success in the music industry. According to the suit, Cassie suffered memory loss from copious substances used and suicidal attempts during her relationship with Diddy. Court papers cite an instance in which MRI results went directly to Diddy. The suit named Diddy, whose real name is Sean Combs, and associated business entities Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Epic Records, Combs Enterprising, and Doe Corp, pointing to a widespread complicity in the allegations. Cassie sought an unspecified amount in compensatory damages. Cassie alleged that Diddy forced her to take part in freak-offs or an arrangement in which she had no choice but to plan and engage in sex acts with male sex workers while he masturbated. This is just sick. This is sick. He also allegedly paid a hotel $50,000 to erase hallway surveillance footage of an intoxicated Diddy throwing glass vases at Cassie while she tried to escape after he gave her a black eye. You know, I'm thinking, what hotel did that? And she should sue them too. That's crazy. She would take copious amounts of drugs to disassociate during these horrific encounters, including ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and alcohol in excess amounts. Excess substance abuse led to addiction. Cassie also talked about blowing up Kid Cudi's car in 2012 in retaliation for Up and Away rapper's brief relationship with Cassie. Oh my goodness. In 2018, Cassie says he forced his way into her home, and while she repeatedly said no and tried to push him away, he raped her. So again, because of all the entities named in this lawsuit and the likelihood that they were insured and insurance companies had something to do with this settlement, he settled within 24 hours after it came out. And he has also since stepped down from some of his positions because I'm sure once the insurance company settled this lawsuit, they didn't want to assume the risk of having him powerful positions anymore. So that wasn't the only case against Diddy. After that case, another case was filed against him that accuses Aaron Hall and Sean Diddy Combs of allegedly raping 2 women. And one of those women has filed suit. My goodness, this is just so much. It's crazy. So singer Aaron Hall is also named in a lawsuit. The woman identified as Lisa Gardner accused Combs and Hall of assaulting her and her friend in the early 1990s. The assault allegedly the assault happened following an event at the offices of MCA Records. This lawsuit against Diddy and Aaron Hall was filed a day before the expiration of the New York Adult Survivors Act. It's crazy. She and a friend said they met Combs and Hall, who was a member of the R&B group Guy, at a recording label's offices for an event MCA was hosting. The friend is not named as a plaintiff in the lawsuit. Alleges that Combs and Hall were very flirtatious and handsy with Lisa Gardner and her friend and offered them drinks throughout the event. Towards the end of the night, Combs and Hall invited Gardner and her friend back to Hall's apartment for an after party. While in Hall's apartment, Lisa was offered more drinks and was coerced into having sex with Combs. After Combs finished doing his business, Lisa Gardner laid in bed, shocked and traumatized. While she was trying to get dressed, Hall allegedly barged into the room, pinned her down, and forced Lisa Gardner to have sex with him as well. Following the alleged assault, she got dressed and ran from the home. Lawsuit accuses both men of sexually assaulting Gardner's friend that same evening in Hall's home. Upon information and belief, when Combs finished with Lisa Gardner, he and Hall switched and they commenced assaulting Lisa Gardner's friend. Days after Combs went to the home where Gardner and her friend were staying, became irate and allegedly assaulted and choked Gardner until she passed out. It says Combs was allegedly looking for the friend because he feared she would tell the girl he was with at the time. And it's in addition to that, another accuser, Joy Dickerson Neal, filed a separate lawsuit alleging Combs drugged and sexually assaulted her in 1991 while she was a college student at Syracuse University. Dickerson Neal, who said she reluctantly had dinner with Combs at a New York City restaurant and then accompanied him as he ran errands, also accused Combs of recording the assault without her knowledge and sharing that video with other people. Supposedly, this video was shared with Bonte from Jodeci. So he has one case is settled and 2 others that are pending. And then another lawsuit was filed against Harve Pierre, the ex-president of Bad Boy Entertainment and Bad Boy Records, of sexually assaulting an unnamed former assistant. Combs' companies were also named in the lawsuit in 1 count of gender-motivated violence and 2 counts of negligence. So it seems like it might have been a part of their corporate culture, just abuse women, you know. And if someone sees this happening from the CEO, then listen, it's not far-fetched to believe that the president might think it be okay to engage in this type of activities as well. So I'm exhausted, y'all. For real, this is 19 cases, and I'm 100% sure. Not 19 cases, 19 people, some of which have multiple cases filed against them. But what do you guys think about this? Like, how do people who want to be in entertainment, who want to be actors, who want to be in the political arena, how do you move in these spaces where this stuff does not happen? I mean, some things are pretty obvious. You don't go on dates with the boss. You don't go back to their rooms with them. I was always taught, when I go out, don't let nobody make your drink. You don't leave your drink sitting down. If you go to the bathroom, you get a whole nother drink. Like, you go together, you leave together. But I'm just trying to figure out how to prevent these things from happening, because although these civil cases are bringing all these things to light, none of these people are behind bars except for Harvey Weinstein, I believe. And if none of them are behind bars, they're out here raising other young men who may be watching this. And it's probably a lot more people who never came forward and said anything. So number one, let's talk about how everybody's feeling about this, because I'm telling you, in doing this, I'm drained. I am unnerved, about the society that our young people have to move in, kind of knowing that this is happening so many levels. And it makes me start to rethink how I think about people who are in power positions. It seems to me that the power that a lot of people hold has completely destroyed their brains, moral compass. What do y'all think about it? Let's talk about it. What do you think we can do to prevent some of these things from happening in the future? Or do you think it's just something that can't prevent? I mean, I understand the civil cases, but what about the criminal side of things? Why were none of these people locked up and convicted? How do we change that? So those of you who are viewing this later, drop me some comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys soon.
Who said they looking for me? I'ma make you get out the way. Who got a watch? Who got the time? I'm raising the clock. Even if my feelings grind don't stop. Got big dreams.